Welcome to the You on the Camino de Santiago podcast. This podcast is for and about first-time pilgrims walking the pilgrimage routes in Spain, France, and Portugal. With your host, guide and longtime pilgrim, Nancy Reynolds of the Camino Experience. Sometimes what drives people to go on pilgrimage is the need to make sense out of an unbearable loss and to heal our hearts so we can move forward with some sense of peace. Losing a loved one can be disorienting, devastating, knocking us to our knees and throwing us off course. Now, imagine losing not one person who is dear to you, but instead losing multiple people and having that happen in an unusually short period of time. Hi, this is Nancy, and my guest today, Beck, is in the unenviable, awful position of grieving the loss of several family members over too short of a period of time, and to be coming out of some very difficult years. The Camino is the perfect place to take her broken heart. The pilgrimage is going to give Beck the chance to slow down, take it all in, and heal. And the interesting thing is that her pilgrimage has already begun. This happens for many pilgrims. They begin planning and preparing and realize that that is also part of the journey. With a couple of months still to go until she starts walking, Beck is savoring the planning process while simultaneously longing to be on the trail. This is the journey we are on. We will meet Beck in just a moment, but first, if you are dreaming of being on the Camino and you are looking ahead to 2027, I want to invite you to join me in Saint-Jean-Pied-du-Port in either May or September next year. I will announce the dates for my 2027 Camino Experience groups in July, and the first people to know those dates will be the people on my email list. You can get on that list and grab your free copy of my Camino Planning Roadmap by following the link in the show notes. Now, if you know that you definitely want to join one of my groups in 2027 and begin your pilgrimage from Saint-Jean-Pied-du-Port in either May or September, and you'd like to be at the front of the line to get a spot in your first choice of groups, then you can go ahead and put your name on the interest list. The link to get on the interest list is also in the show notes. I can't wait to see who I get to share this experience with in 2027. But for now, let's go ahead and meet Beck. Beck, hi. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm loving being here. It's so exciting to finally meet you.
Yeah, I feel the same. You know, when I got your email, I was like, oh, I love when I know the names of my listeners.
Yeah.
I know that I've got a lot of people who are listening, but to have a name and details about your life and when you're walking the Camino is very satisfying to me. So it's totally mutual, I assure you. Yeah. All right, good. Well, how about we start where I always start and put the pin in the map? Will you share with me, please, your Camino plans?
Yeah, my Camino plans are into July. I'll be flying over to Madrid. I'm still uncertain. I've got a couple of days before I actually start. I've booked in at Albergue Border. So I've got a couple of days and not sure what to do in those days. I have 44 days. So my flight is, end of September sometime.
Okay, that's a nice long
Yeah.
journey. You're starting in Saint-Jean-Pied-du-Port.
Yes, correct.
So 44 days, that makes me think you're going all the way to Santiago. Are you also going out to the coast?
Yes, that's my plan. I'm not putting any pressure on myself. So I'm not putting any pressure on myself, but I've got the Camino app, the Ninja app, and I've planned it all out.
That's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is fun. And I've worked out the date. I should be in Santiago around the 10th. Obviously, if my trip goes well. And then going out to Finisterre and Musha, if I pronounce
Muxia.
Musha, hopefully. So that I would love to do at least Finisterre. But again, this trip is me about arriving and just taking my time. I really want to immerse myself in the culture, in the walk itself, and really just take some time for myself to get there. So if I've got to, you know, jump on a bus or something like that, if I start to run out of time, I might do that.
Okay. Well, I have a couple questions about your plans, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
What made you choose August as your month to walk?
When I was doing a little bit of research, I don't love rain.
You don't love rain?
The rain, no, I don't. Yeah, I listened to a YouTube video and they explain the different months and the benefits of each month. And I thought August suits because I like the hot weather.
Okay.
I like the longer days. I don't know if I'm going to be a fast walker. So I thought the fact that I could get up in the morning and then walk throughout the day without having, daylight impede on my walk would be suitable for me.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I love about summers in Spain is it'll be light until after 10 o'clock at night. And
Yeah.
hopefully you won't be walking that late, but
No, no, no.
yeah, but it's still it sort of messes with you a little bit. Like, wait a minute, shouldn't we be still out doing things? And in fact, the Spaniards will be out that late at night.
Yeah. So my plan was to obviously get up at, be walking by 6 o'clock, be done
Yeah.
by lunchtime, enjoy the township that I'm in, go to bed, start and, repeat. So I think August just gives you that longer day to enjoy everything.
Yeah.
As soon as it starts to get dark, I don't like doing anything. I become a hermit over winter. So
I'm the same.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
walking in January or February just wouldn't work for you.
No, it wouldn't work. Maybe not my first one, maybe later on. I
Okay.
don't think this will be my last Camino. Let's see. But
Very good. Well, and it's a sort of a little known fact, but coming out of Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, July and August aren't that busy. So
yeah,
you should be in pretty good shape to make your way across without big crowds, at least until you get to Sarria. And then it could get quite a bit busier at that point. But yeah, your first part shouldn't be too busy at all. Excellent. So what made you decide to stop at Auberge Borda on your first day?
because it just looks magical. It
Mm,
looks like the setting. I tossed up between the two places. I didn't want to rush my trip. I want to enjoy it. I don't think, to have 7 weeks off work is not something I can do every year.
yeah.
So my idea, there was a couple of ideas for that. One, I just wanted to enjoy St. John, and
Yeah.
I wanted to make my way up the Pyrenees without rushing it, without causing injury as well. So I wanted my body to be able to start with that really steep incline,
And it is steep. That first 9 kilometers to Borda is in places just unbelievably steep.
not rush it. So the 8 kilometers, I figured that day I can just make my way up the mountain. I can stop at Orasan. I can, have something to eat, a bit of a drink, just relax, then make my way up because I believe it's only a kilometer past
That's correct.
Orasan.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
So yeah, so just and then the next day I can get up early and make my way. I probably won't be staying at Ronas. I
Okay.
will probably walk on from there and probably try and do about 20 kilometers.
What's your reason for that? Just curious.
I thought, like thinking to myself, to stay in some of the smaller towns rather than and again, might be something, a question later on is recommendations from yourself. But I just like the idea of staying in some of the smaller albergues.
Mm, okay.
No, it's not 100% set in, and also just to get that distance. So I'm making up those kilometers from the first day.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. And so you said stay in the smaller towns and villages and stay in the smaller albergues. So what's interesting is Roncesvalles is very small, but the albergue is massive.
Yeah, that's right.
And Bergete and Espinal are very small, but they have smaller albergues. So that's a really good point. Just because it's a small town doesn't mean it's a small albergue.
No,
Yeah, good catch.
Yeah, and just I don't know. I think Ronispace gets a lot of attention,
Hmm.
so sharing it amongst the townships within the communities.
Yeah, it does get a lot of attention. And there's some special things that happen in Roncesvalles.
Mhm.
There are a couple of places that serve a pilgrim's meal in the evening, and they seat you with whomever you walk in with. So if you walk in by yourself, they're going to put you at a table with other pilgrims, and you get this wonderful experience of sharing the meal. And then the other thing is there's a church in the center of Roncesvalles where they do an evening mass, and at the end they do a pilgrim's blessing. Now, that's not significant for everyone, but
It's nice.
it sort of goes with the reputation of Roncesvalles.
Yeah, okay.
And the
So
albergue sleeps 245 people, so it's really big and
yeah,
crazy.
it is really
Yeah.
big. I know. I feel like, 44 days is not enough.
Mm,
Yeah, so there's so many different little townships that I love the sound of, and I really love the sound of that. So I don't know. I might see what happens on that first night
yeah.
and then take it from there.
And you've hit on one of my top tips, which you may remember from season one of the podcast. Don't rush the start. And
Yeah,
like you said, just take your time, avoid injury, and just find your pace, find your rhythm. And then once you feel stronger and more confident down the way, then you can do longer days or you can pick up your pace. But with the luxury of time, it's just a beautiful approach to take it slow.
yeah.
Now, you said something else that I want to highlight that I absolutely loved when I asked you, what made you decide to stay at Borda? You said it's because of the magical experience of staying at a place like that in the Pyrenees. And I think people miss that point because they try to answer the question of staying at Borda or staying at Orson based on how hard that first stage is. But
Hmm.
that, for me, is not the first reason to stay at one of these places.
No,
It's when else are you going to have a night in the Pyrenees?
no, you're not. I'm not. I hope I am, but I'm a homeowner, and it's not cheap and the time to travel now.
True.
So hopefully I can do this every 2 years. However,
Yeah. Yeah. But what if this were your only one? Let's
that's
get that
right.
night in the Pyrenees. Let's wake up to that environment, which is just absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah.
And we'll pray for clear weather so you can see the sunrise and see the vistas, which are extraordinary.
Well, that's what I was hoping I'm not sure if you've walked in summer. I know that you love walking in May and September.
Yeah.
Is the weather clearer in August?
Yes. Typically, yes. What you
Yeah.
do get in the summertime, though, are thunderstorms. And yeah, and so what I would do if I were going to walk that time, I would find an almanac, a weather almanac online, and get the last 5 years of weather for that time period and just get an idea of what has happened. Because for me, it's way too hot. I have a very low tolerance for that. So I haven't actually ever been in Spain in August. I've been there in July and been on the Camino in July and did not love it.
Okay.
But the thing about thunderstorms is if you read a weather report that says thunderstorms, you're very likely going to feel like you are being rained at because it is typically very heavy torrential rain if there's a thunderstorm.
Hmm.
If it says showers or rain, don't worry so much. But a thunderstorm, you need a really good poncho or good rain jacket and rain pants.
Yeah, I was going to ask because I was looking. I love shopping, so
Oh, good.
and when I've done hikes before, when I've been in that torrential rain, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it was so hot, and I didn't even bother putting a rain jacket on because I knew in
Exactly.
10 minutes it would be over, and I'd be cool.
That's exactly the problem is it's too hot to wear something made out of the material that a rain jacket or poncho are made out of, but otherwise you're going to get soaked. And so the solution, I think, is to keep your things dry. So maybe you get soaked, but you'll dry off. But when you get where you're going, you have dry clothes to put on. You have a dry
Hmm.
sleeping bag or sleep sack. You have a dry second pair of shoes so that you're not miserable all night long.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's no right solution.
There's
to
not.
rain gear. It's only what you think is going to work the best, and you're going to take your chances and go with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, cool. Last year, the restaurant at Orson was closed on Mondays. And so, anyone who's walking on a Monday, you probably want to pack a lunch because you won't be able to get much more than drinks and snacks from Orson if they're closed for lunch.
Right, I'll check that out.
What people often do is they walk to Orson, sit down, have lunch, spend an hour or two, and then go to Borda because Borda's check-in starts at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if it's a Monday, they may be closed for lunch.
That's okay. I can do good picnics. I'll take some food and I'll go and find somewhere on that beautiful mountain.
It won't be hard.
Yeah, to sit there and eat and take a drink up and just, I don't know, immerse myself in the beauty of being there.
Doesn't that sound amazing?
Yeah, it does. I'm so excited.
I love it. All right. Well, how about we switch gears a little bit and talk about why you're walking the Camino and why you're walking it now? Would you just share a little bit about your reasons and what got this on the calendar for you?
Yeah, I've had a few very tough years, which started in 2018. And, things just have kept going downhill. And I lost both my grandmothers in 2022 and two uncles. So that was a very hard year. And every year since then, we've had deaths in the family, which has been horrible. In 2024, I lost my father very unexpectedly, which was,
Oh,
yeah, that was tough. And 2025 was just that year of disbelief and, trying to, work out this new life that we all have. And so I don't know. I didn't plan because, as I said, I only bought this house in 2022, and overseas. I thought overseas trips were done. I bought a swag, and I'm like, all I'm doing is doing cheap camping trips up the road and that sort of thing. I had, no visions, and I was actually sitting at work, and I've got a young friend and she said, where should I travel? Should I go to Bali? And I said, no, you live at home with your parents. You do expensive holidays when you live at home with your family.
I
So
love
you
that.
should do the Camino and then you should do Kokoda. And anyway, the Camino was out for her. And then I'm like, I should do the Camino. And I had this money saved up and I hit a few points. I'm like, I'll research it a bit. If it costs me XYZ, I'll go into work tomorrow, and I, got on the internet, priced it up, and I'm like, oh, it is going to cost me about that. And then I was like, okay, if I can check out my leave the next day, and if I've got 7 weeks, because I was like, I wanted to do it in 9, but work said no.
Say that again. You wanted to do it when?
Over 9 weeks.
9 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, I was just like, I needed, after, the last couple of years, I needed that time. And I went into work and I had exactly 7 weeks leave come August. So I was like, okay,
There it
I'm
is.
doing this. This
That's
is
a
it.
message.
It was a message. And there's been a couple of other things that have happened that just keep me, very interested and, very committed to being doing this. I also need, I feel like I just need some time for myself as
Yeah.
well.
Well, that's a lot of loss. I'm so sorry to hear all
Yeah, yeah,
that. It's so disorienting, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, it really is. And, I just think to, I don't know, step on that path and walk and, really, I think also I need community. I need community outside my family.
Hmm.
And, when I first started researching it, I thought maybe the Norte might be a good route because I love the beach and that kind of thing. But then as I started doing more research, I think the Frances for people that are starting out is a really good opportunity because it was one of the first walks, I believe. and it's all about community, and it's really set up well. And I think for a first timer doing it independently, for me is the way to go.
Yeah, and the thing about it is the infrastructure is set up so that
Yes.
you can stay at places that are communal, that either host a community meal or provide a kitchen where you can cook together. So that infrastructure is all in place. The other thing that I've noticed over the years is there's an expectation among first-time pilgrims that there is that community, and that just self-fulfills itself.
Yeah,
So we expect it, and therefore we go and we create it when we're there. Yeah, and I think for many people, that is one of the greatest gifts of the Camino.
I agree. I agree. Because I've traveled quite a lot, and you build these relationships while you're on that trip. And I don't know because I haven't been on the Camino, but I feel like it might be, I don't know, not more genuine, but seems to be a strong connection on the Camino.
Yeah, and there are some reasons for that. There
Yeah.
definitely are. Yeah, one, of course, is that the infrastructure is set up and that people are arriving expecting to participate in that way. It's also a really special place as a pilgrimage route that people have been walking this route for over 1,000 years out of devotion to the idea that there's something holy at the end. And that brings a certain reverence and energy and depth, I think. I mean, I can't think of any other word offhand of how to explain that. And then it's also, are you familiar with the term liminal space?
No.
So this is really interesting. I did a lot of research on this last year. A liminal space is an in-between space. And so when you walk the Camino, you are leaving what you know at home. You've exited that world and you have not yet completed the journey. So you're not the transformed version of you yet. And so the liminal space is that walk in between where you are no longer who you were and you are becoming who you will be by the time you get to the end of the walk. And
Yes,
magic happens there.
yeah, that really resonates with me.
Yeah. And so you're walking into something I believe, and this has been my experience, that will hold you as you walk through these losses and process the grief.
Yes, I hope so. And I think this is going to be a reset for me
Mm.
to start the year. Looking forward to this, planning it. I'm completely obsessed. I come home, I research it. I've got spreadsheets, I've got apps, I've got books, I've got YouTube playing while I'm cooking dinner. And, you know, I, I want it to be here now, but I also love this planning stage.
Oh, I think that is so important. A lot of people say just don't plan, just go. But if you enjoy the planning process, I really think that's a significant part of the journey.
Yeah. And it's not that I'm over planning it. I'm just setting myself sort of benchmarks. When I get there, I don't really want to book any accommodation. I think I'll arrive in border, and then whatever happens the next day will happen. And whether I get to a place and let's say I decide to stay at Ronispaeus, but I'm the last one and I don't have a bed out of 200 and something pilgrims, well, you know what? I'll just walk to the next place. Or if I have to get a taxi and find somewhere that's just off the path, then so be it.
Yeah. And in early August, that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I don't think it will be.
Yeah.
And I think what will be will be. And, again, come the end of the trip, I'll be more cautious of where I'm staying and probably booking around there. Or there are some particular places I do want to stay at, which I'll make sure that I will be at those places at that
Wonderful.
particular time.
And when you're first getting started too, you don't actually know what the accommodations will be like. So you've probably stayed in hostels, given that I'm assuming being that you're
I
Australian, you
have,
have probably stayed in hostels. That's where I learned about hostels when I first discovered them. But there's such a variety of accommodations, even amongst the albergues. You've got the private albergues, the municipal albergues, the parochial albergues. So a lot of variety. And that's just three of the different kinds. There are a couple more. And so you'll discover which ones suit you and which ones give you the experience that you want. And so by the time you're a week or so into the journey, you'll be making choices based on what you've discovered on the trail. So that's kind of a fun way to do it.
Yeah, and I just want to open myself up for whatever comes. I'm
Ah,
prepared to take on. I feel like for me, this is all about love, reconnecting with myself, reconnecting with others. Before I lost dad, I was so sociable and, it was all about friends and, I'd see my family all the time. I've got a very big family. And it's not about not being with my family, but it's about reconnecting with myself and friendships and, interests. I think interest is a big thing. And, I feel like you shouldn't go over there with expectations. And I don't think I have expectations. Maybe I do. I
it's
have
hard not
hope.
to.
I have hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another way to look at that, I read this great thing. I can't remember the source, but the author was talking about instead of having expectations, go with an attitude of expectancy,
Yes.
which just says, I expect this to be an incredible experience. I expect to meet people with whom I'll have amazing conversations.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sort of opens you up, is what I found.
That's right. And yeah, look, I'm going in with my heart open, my mind open, and I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other until I don't want to do it anymore, and then I'll rest or just.
Beautiful.
But I think it is, I want to, and I've taken the time to do this because I really want to take it slow. I don't want
Yeah.
to rush. I don't want to do it in 30 days and then be exhausted or miss opportunities. And I think another thing about walking, because everyone says to me, walking, that's crazy. But you see so much.
Yes.
I've driven from where I live in New South Wales up to Queensland, the Gold Coast, and I'm driving past all these towns going, I want to stop here, I want to stop. But it's like, life's too fast. And I feel over the last couple of years, my life has been too fast and it just needs to slow down.
Yeah. Something happens too at the pace of walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what it is, well, I think it's a few things, but one is that we then can notice what our senses are taking in,
Hmm.
what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're smelling, and the breeze on our skin. Yeah. And that much time outside, that much time moving along the earth. I think that's a really important part of the pilgrimage experience.
Yeah. And engaging with other people,
Yeah.
that you were just put next to on this particular day and learning about other people, their cultures, where they came from, why they're walking.
Yeah. Bearing witness to their stories and having them hear yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've just encapsulated it right there. I think you know what you're getting into here.
Yeah. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
During our earlier email correspondence, you had shared with me that you were both nervous and excited. Would you talk a little bit about those two things?
This happened so quickly for me. And usually I'm not somebody that just runs out and buys something, even if it's small, like my backpack.
Uh-huh.
I've been researching it, like it's taking me months. I still haven't bought it because I'm still not sure. So for me to just all of a sudden, I was like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to book my flight. And I did that. And it's, you know, it's very out of character for me to do something like that. And then once I booked it, I became so nervous. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, I don't know if the buses run from Pamplona to St. John on a Sunday or a Saturday or whenever it was. And, and I knew that they did, but just that panic attack about, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And I think it's healthy. And I wonder how I'm going to be on the 30th, particularly if I've got to work, because I think I might have to work in Sydney that day and then just go to the airport straight afterwards. which I think might be good because then I'll be too busy to be nervous.
Yeah.
But the unknown, I think it's the unknown. My Spanish, I have tried some Spanish words and I just am not good at it. I listened to your podcast, and while I was listening to the podcast and I was repeating those words, I was fabulous. And then I turned it off and I gave it another go, and I was just like, oh my God, these poor people.
That's me with French. It just doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
it doesn't happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the good news is when you're on the Camino, there will be probably about 10 phrases that you'll use every single day,
mhm.
and you'll get some mastery that
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
There's a guy at work that I've been practicing with. So, yeah, so that's been fun. So I think, things like that. I think that walking over the Pyrenees in that mountain, that's by myself, that makes me nervous.
Mm. What about that makes you nervous?
Just, am I going to get lost? Will I end up just this little missing person on the French Pyrenees? Yeah,
And I think you've just described what many people are afraid of
yeah.
about crossing the Pyrenees. And, staying at Borda, they have capacity for 14 people. So minimally, there will be 14 people walking close by.
And that was, I think, another reason for me to check in beforehand.
Yeah.
Was that was another reason. And yeah, I didn't, as much as I booked in for that reason, when I was panicking about it the other day, that didn't resonate with me. So thank you.
Yeah. And then, their Orson has capacity for just around 50 people. And so it's very likely there'll be another 50 people coming right up behind your 14. And then if you take your time and go slow, there'll be more people coming up from Saint Jean. So it's not impossible to get lost in the Pyrenees by any means. But if you just stay alert and keep an eye out for the trail markers and watch where other pilgrims are going, you'll be okay.
Okay. So saying that, I want to get up early and maybe I'll leave the first day to a bit later, depending on when other people are leaving. But part of this is I like to be up usually about 5 a.m.
Okay.
and out the door. Is the foot traffic busy at that time, or do you know?
Yeah, so you'll probably be ahead of most people. But what you can do is the night before at dinner is you can talk to people and ask them, hey, is anybody else interested in starting really early tomorrow?
Yeah.
And you don't have to stay together the whole day, but you could at least walk out and get to the point where you feel confident and start walking. I don't know what time sunrise is that time of year.
It's about, I've already looked it up, about 6:37.
6:30. Okay. Yeah. And the thing is, when you walk out the door of Borda and you join the Camino, it's a single lane paved road for probably about, let's see, 7 kilometers, 6 to 7 kilometers before it leaves the road. And by the time that happens, it's going to be fully light.
Okay.
Yeah. And about 2.5, 3 kilometers after Borda, there's one point where there's a choice where the road, the Camino veers to the right, and there's a left-hand turn that is sort of straightish. And so if you're not watching, you could go straight that way. So you just want to watch for the trail markers. You're going to receive some information at the pilgrim's office in Saint Jean. And one of the things they give you is a color map that shows the landmarks along the way. And so you can refer to that. You can also refer to an app because those have maps in them with you as a blue dot. So you can always check the app and make sure I'm actually in this moment, I'm on the trail.
Yeah. About that. So with my mobile phone reception on the Pyrenees,
It comes and goes.
you could always walk to reception.
You could, yeah, keep moving a little bit and you'll probably pick it up. For example, there's a food truck about 7 kilometers after Borda, which puts it at 7 plus 8, 15 kilometers after Saint Jean, give or take. And I have tried to make a phone call while standing at the man's table and had no reception. And then I crossed the little one lane road and I have reception. So Yeah. And you're way up high, and yeah, it's really very beautiful. And the other thing that I always try to reassure first time pilgrims is to trust yourself and trust the trail markers because it is marked. If you're ever not sure, you can confer with another pilgrim. Hey, I think that's the trail marker. What do you think? Yeah, that looks really well worn. Let's go that way. And then at the food truck, I've never been there in August, so I'm hoping he's there in August. But he's got a whiteboard where he's drawn the rest of the route from his food truck to Roncesvalles and how far it is and what the landmarks are. So you can always look at that and confirm with him. So I leave, go around the corner and leave the road. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's good. That sounds great.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think part of this trip is I don't know, through everything that's happened over the last couple of years, I feel like I've lost confidence in myself. So I think for me, this trip again is just about getting that confidence back,
Yeah.
going, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard from many people, but the time they get over that mountain, they're like, "Pff, I got this." And the confidence just comes flooding in because what you're thinking in Saint Jean is, I don't know if I can get over that mountain. And what you're thinking is in Roncesvalles is, "Pff, I just got over that mountain." And so you right out of the gate in the first day or two have conquered that first fear.
Yeah. It's not about the incline or again, my fitness, I have to get it back up there. I will be. It's about not getting lost,
Yeah.
not getting lost. But I think I'll be so worried about it that I'll be just looking out for, again, I think there'll be people around me
There will be.
quite a lot.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. If you're ever in doubt at a crossroad, just stop and wait for the next pilgrim
Okay.
and you make the decision together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Because I'm sure that it won't be long between pilgrims coming.
Not with 50 coming up behind you from Orson.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe be sure to wait until it's light out if that truly is a concern for you.
Yeah, I think I will. I think even if I was to leave at 6:30, that's still pretty
Yeah.
early. I think from memory was at 20, it's 20 kilometers to Bergeti. Is that how I pronounce it?
Borgete. Yeah.
Bergete.
Borgete.
Is that about 20 kilometers? I
Uh,
think.
you, yes. So it's I
Mm,
do it from Orson to Roncesvalles is about 19. So that means it's about 18. And then it's another two to the outskirts of Borgete, and then another half a kilometer to get into the center.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
about 20. I always have to think it through because I don't remember
Yeah.
numbers all that well. Yeah. It's quick. And in Borgete, right as you enter the town, there's a supermarket. So if you need to pick up groceries, as long as you're not there during the typical closed hours for the siesta, you should be able to get whatever you need at the grocery store. And there are a couple of bars that'll be open.
Yeah. Siestas from 1 till 5 or 1 till 4.
Roughly. Yeah, roughly 1:30 to 5-ish. Yeah. I've discovered there's no precision to it, and hours are not posted on the door. Everybody just assumes everyone knows.
Yeah. Before. Yeah, I've noted that. I've heard that people have turned up at lunchtime and there's been nothing opened.
Yeah. Well, the pro tip is the bars and restaurants are open from 1:30 to 4 serving meals.
Okay.
And so you can always get food at a bar
Mhm.
during that time. Yeah. And I say always, there is no always on the Camino. There's no always, no never. It just usually you can get food. Yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to share about your plans and about your Camino? But I just haven't asked the right question yet.
Yeah. So in my some of my panic attacks leading up to when I booked my flight, and oh no, before I booked my flight, I was like, oh, maybe August is too hot. I'll change my dates and go maybe August, September or September. So I couldn't, was really flustered.
Mm.
And I looked at the dates and because I check into order on the 3rd of August, and that was the date my nana passed away.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I was like, I looked at the end of the trip, and the end of the trip should be around the 6th of September or thereabouts, not quite. I'd love to be walking into Santiago on the 6th, but I don't think I will be. And that was my other Nana's birthday. So I feel like they're guiding me through this trip.
They've got it
And
bookended.
yeah, so I was like, I can't change these dates. I have to go. I have to go with it.
Oh, it sounds right.
Yeah, because I tried to book order for the Saturday night, but they've actually got a family function on that weekend beforehand. I even contacted them and said, if there's any cancellations, can I come in earlier? And they were just like, no,
Nope.
nice in a nice email.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't change these dates. So I just, yeah. And that's another reason I feel that this is so right at the moment.
Yeah.
Just all,
Well, I'm just imagining you at Borda, meeting the other pilgrims who are staying there and sharing the significance of that day with them and allowing them to bear witness to your journey.
yeah,
And one of the ways that we heal on the Camino is by sharing our stories.
yeah, yeah. I've got
Yeah.
a lot of healing to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I have to own myself because going through all these periods of grief, I feel like you tend to cling on to other people and you try to make other people, I do try to make other people better. And you sort of forget about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my nan, um my Nana Jill, my mom's mum, she was an artist and she painted landscapes. And I just, that scenery, and for me to be checking in on that day is profound. And my other nan, she was a devout Catholic. So for me to be walking into Santiago around that time,
It's perfect. Oh, you got me back.
yeah, like, when she was passing away, she was like, I don't want to be here. I want to be at the club. And she wanted to be traveling. And, she was always a traveler. Like, she went to England in her 70s. Yes, I think she would just be loving me being
Yeah.
in Santiago around her birthday.
Oh, I love it. And yeah, so you're carrying on her legacy. You're
Yeah,
going to keep
yeah,
doing it and take her with you every step.
yeah,
Ah, it's beautiful.
yeah.
Thanks for sharing all that. That really it just deepens the significance.
Yeah, it's just a really right time. Like, mum told me about when I lived in England for 2.5 years in my early 20s. And mum told me about the Camino, and I was just like, like probably too young at that and too immature to understand the significance of it.
Yeah.
And then throughout the years, it popped up in my life, but I never, it was never an option, at that point in time. And it's funny that all of, like, I've watched the movie and loved the movie, and I've done other hikes. So I've done the Kokoda Trail twice. And, each of those times I could have completed this trip. And I was actually going to do Kokoda again for the third time because, it was so significant to my father. And everyone's like, you've done it already, you do something else. And I think then when Caitlin brought up, where shall I go? And we started at work, we're looking at places to go. And I'm like, the Camino. And then I just sat there and I was like, I'm going to do, yeah, I just felt like within my heart, now's the right time.
Love it.
It's right for me.
I love it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, as much as I'm scared of getting lost in the Pyrenees, I don't think I will.
Yeah. I don't think you will. And I think an important part of this is to know that you're not alone
Yeah, yeah,
and that you're not alone in that fear. So here's another pro tip. When you're at dinner at Borda, just talk to people and say, I'm a little nervous. Is anybody else nervous about walking over the Pyrenees tomorrow? You can make light of it. Everybody's nervous.
the first time I did Kokoda is I was at the airport and there was a lady there and she had her Kokoda hat on her, or her Kokoda spirit hat. And I'm like, I think, are you walking on such and such date? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, are you scared? And she's like, yes. They were both on that. And then we met other people on the flight and, because there was a number of us doing it, it just it built such a rapport, and you just feel
Yeah.
so at ease that other people
Yeah.
are scared. So yeah,
Yeah. Even when you're standing in line at the pilgrim's office to get your credenzial and your first stamp and your scallop shell, everybody's got this nervous, buzzy energy. And it's okay to just turn to the person next to you and say, I am so excited and scared to death. And they're going to go, oh my gosh, me too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yes, some of the
Yeah.
places I've been lost in before, but anyway, well, I've always got home. Always.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate that. Okay. So you mentioned we have to at least say what the Kokoda Trail is because before I read your email, I'd never heard of it. So would you give me the quick version of what the Kokoda Trail is?
So the Kokoda Trails in Papua New Guinea, which is up the top of Queensland. And during World War II, that's where the Australian and New Zealand armed forces defended Australia against Japan. So my grandfather fought in that war.
Oh,
And, for Australians and New Zealanders, and it's a very special place. There's a lot of history there. It's a very hard trail. It's 92 kilometers across the map,
okay.
and the highest point of the trail is 2,400 meters. So, and it's tough terrain. It's up, tree roots and mud and no beautiful towns. Oh, there are. There's beautiful villages, and it's spectacular, the rainforest. But amongst that rainforest, you feel like such a small, small person. And our soldiers, it would have been scary and, hard for them. So, yeah, that's the smaller sort of version of that. But yeah, no, it was very
Okay.
special. I think for me when I first completed that, again, I was at that cross point in my life where I was like, I've got to do something. I need a bit of a shake up. And I did that, and it just changed my direction. It was really good.
Lovely. Well, I'll put something in the show notes so people can find out some information, make sure they have the correct spelling so they can look that up. It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And you can only do it through a tour guide. You can't just go in yourself and walk the Kokoda Trail.
Okay.
It has to be through an organized
Okay.
tour company.
Okay. I'll make sure there's some information in there. Thanks for that. All right. Well, before we wrap up, are there any questions I can answer for you?
Yeah, I do have some. I wrote some down. Hold on,
All
let me.
right. Let's have them.
Okay. So I fly into Madrid, and
Okay.
then arrive at about 1:30 in the afternoon. My idea was to stay, rest up in a nice hotel with a pool. And then should I make my way and have a night in Pamplona and then sort of bypass that on my trip? Or shall I make my way straight to St. John? What would your
Oh,
recommendations be?
that's a tough question. My answer is always Pamplona both times. So
Okay, right.
stay on the way in and stay when you go through. But that's only because I love Pamplona so much.
Okay.
If you have the leisure to have a night in Pamplona before you go to Saint Jean, that's really nice for a couple reasons. One is you get to see it when your feet don't hurt and you can walk all over the historic center. You can call that a training walk and, walk for 10K in circles through the narrow pedestrian streets.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing about that is there's a daily bus. If you want the affordable way to go from Pamplona to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, there's a daily bus and it leaves at either 10 a.m. or noon. They changed the times throughout the year last year. So we don't know what time it's going to leave yet. But that way you will not miss that bus if you stay a night in Pamplona.
Well, that was my other question because I've heard that you've got to book the bus just to ensure you get a seat.
It doesn't hurt. And I will say that end of July, beginning of August is not as big of a risk as, say, May and September. But there's no harm in booking it. But you could book it the day before. You could walk over to the bus station and buy your ticket. You could go online and buy your ticket. So The other thing about that bus is they don't assign seats. They just sell however many seats they have. And then when the tickets are gone, so you may not be able to tell online if they're running out of seats.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And in regards to my trip from Madrid to Pamplona, is the bus or the train, what's more scenic? Like, should I do one? Like, if I've got the time, because I'm waking up, on the Saturday, and I'm not sure whether I should rush across to Pamplona or should I take my time? And or if I get on the bus, is it all highways?
Yeah. So it's mostly highways. There will be a couple of stops in towns, most likely. The train is going to go through the countryside, but I would make the decision based on how easy it is to get to the station in Madrid. So, for example, the train from Madrid to Pamplona leaves from the Atocha train station, and you can easily find an affordable place to stay or a nice place to stay within a 15 to 20-minute walk of that train station. Super easy. The bus stations are a little bit farther out of the center. So you'd have to take public transportation to get to the bus station or go back to the airport and get the bus from there. So, by my mind, if you're staying in Madrid, I would just leave from the Atocha train station.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And then it arrives in Pamplona just about 2 kilometers out of the center. And there are taxis, of course, but there are local buses that will get you close to the center, or 2 kilometers. You could just walk it.
Practice.
Yeah.
Is it an a easy walk to find? If I was to do the 2 kilometers, I'm not going to turn around and walk the wrong way on my first day.
You might, but you won't go the wrong way for long.
Okay,
But yeah, you would just use some navigation, whatever you
okay,
typically use, like Google Maps or whatever, to navigate your way. There's a lovely walk along the river to get to the center of Pamplona. So Google Maps might take you along the streets, but if you can, negotiate and sort of make your own way, you can walk along the river. It's quite lovely.
okay. That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question for you is if I'm running out of time on the Camino Frances and I want to get to Santiago to start my next walk, what places would you bypass to grab a bus, like a short bus ride, not a long bus ride, but a short bus ride to the next town?
It depends on when you're making that call. So if you're making that call early, before Burgos or before Leon, a popular part to skip is the walk into those cities and out of those cities. So I would say don't. If you can avoid it, don't skip any of it. But one that is particularly not worth, no, how do I say this? You won't be brokenhearted if you miss the part going out of Leon. And so sometimes what people do is they'll get a local bus to take them to Virgin del Camino and walk from there. And it just takes, I can't think of how many kilometers it takes off, but it gets you out of the center and skips that super industrial area.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other, gosh, how do you decide? Some people will skip parts of Sarria to Santiago just because the vibe is so completely different. After being relatively peaceful from Saint Jean to Sarria, Sarria becomes very frenetic and very busy. So some people will skip some parts of that. If you want the Compostela, you need to be sure to walk from O Pedroso, I get that wrong all the time, O Pedroso, and I'm not even pronouncing it correctly for Spaniards, but please forgive me. It's the last 20 kilometers into Santiago.
So you got to walk that.
You need to walk that if you want the Compostela. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so in some of it, you might make the decision based on if there's bus service. And there is bus service from O Sobrero all the way, I mean, couple exceptions, but most of the way to Santiago. So,
I definitely want to walk it as much of it as I can,
yeah.
but I'm not going to be mad at myself. I don't want to rush my trip, but I'd love
Yeah.
to be in San Diego for my nan's birthday.
Yeah. I get that.
But I don't know. I'm going to make that decision when I'm there.
Okay. So, one other place that you might consider it, and this depends on how you do with downhill. stretches. If you have any trouble on descents, one part that you might consider skipping is the part from the Cross of Iron, the Cruz de Ferro, down to Molina Seca. And it is, in my estimation, the hardest descent of the whole Frances route. And so sometimes what people will do is they'll go to the cross and arrange for a taxi to pick them up at the cross and get them down the mountain.
Okay.
And no shame in that because that stretch does have a tendency to really do damage to the body if you're not careful.
No, this is my trip for me, and whatever I do, there's no shame. I'm not judged by other people. So
Great. Great.
yeah, no, that sounds great. Sorry, I do have one more question.
Let's have
So
it.
in my mind, I thought it would be nice the last day to stay just before Santiago and then walk in the morning and
Okay.
get the sun. Like obviously, hopefully, there's a sunrise. Do you have an opinion on what time of the day to get into Santiago?
The only opinion I would have is there is a mass at noon
Hmm.
and it starts to fill up probably by 11ish. And so if you want to go to the mass on the day that you walk in, I would plan to get there early, but before 11 and give yourself time to stash your backpack somewhere because they won't permit you to take it into the cathedral. The other thing is if are you planning to spend more than one night in Santiago?
I haven't just. I think I will stay that night in San Diego and then start walking again the
Okay.
next day
Okay.
because I'd like to. What in the bigger cities, what I'm planning on doing is staying just before Pamplona, getting to Pamplona in the morning, walking around, staying at Cesar Menor, and
Okay.
then doing that in each of the cities to sort of save
Okay.
a bit of time.
What's the reason for that?
Just so that I like again maybe to walk slower
Okay.
but see the cities in more detail and sort of stay at Pamplona. Yeah,
Okay.
that, that's my reason.
Okay. Cool. Sometimes people skip the cities because they don't like cities.
No, I just want more time to walk around them.
Oh, lovely.
And, if I can arrive in Pamplona in the morning, do some sightseeing around the city, either stay on the outskirts of Pamplona so that I can walk the next day. I just thought that might be a way of.
Two thoughts on that. One is you'll have your backpack. So the advantage of staying in Pamplona is you're not carrying your backpack while you're
True.
sightseeing.
That's
The
true.
other thing is you'll do that for Pamplona and then you'll know if you like that strategy.
Yes.
And then when you get to Logroño, Burgos, León, etc., you'll already know if you like that strategy. And if it works for you, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I will say though, Pamplona, I love Pamplona in the evenings.
Okay.
And the reason I do is around 5 o'clock, the local people all come out en masse into the plazas. And the plazas are buzzing with kids playing, kicking balls, riding scooters. The senior citizens are sitting on the benches in the perimeter, taking it all in. And the young people and the couples, they're talking and smoking and chatting and sitting in the bars and having a fine time. And then at 7 o'clock, people move into the pinchos bars and they have a pincho and a drink and they socialize and they have a fine time. So the evenings are my personal favorites. And then also the other thing to consider is those opening hours. So just like shops will close from roughly 1 or 1:30 till 5, so do attractions. So the cathedral might not be open and the museum might not be open. And so you'll learn that pretty quickly if that plan works.
Okay. All right. So I'll have to reconsider that then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That's
All
good.
right. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I think you're in for a really special time. I think this will be a really poignant journey for you.
Yeah. Look, I feel like it's just something I have to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't wait. I don't want to wish the year away by any means, and I love these planning stages,
Yeah.
reflecting on my, not that I'm taking much, but all it's just all exciting every step of the way. Buying my socks
Great.
is exciting. So
Okay, I get that. And I think a lot of pilgrims who are going to hear this conversation will get that too. Yeah. The absolute thrill of discovering the right toothbrush to take on the Camino. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, Beck, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to hearing how it goes, and I'll be thinking of you out there.
All right. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right. Bye now.